Let's take a look at your market news now. Asian markets mostly rose on Tuesday, with investors cautiously optimistic that China and the US can reach a deal ending their trade war as the two sides prepare to resume talks this week. With New York closed for public holiday, there were few catalysts to drive buying, though the release of Federal Reserve minutes on Wednesday will be pored over for an idea of the bank's interest rates plans. Marginal gains across the Far East, with the Tokyo's Nikkei rising 0.1% to 21,302 points. The Hang Seng eked out a 0.2% gain to hit 28,403 points, while the Shanghai Composite tracked higher by 0.3% to 2,761. Let's go to the markets now. Arabile Gubade is standing by. Lots of red behind you. Arabile, blood in the water.
Yeah, except yesterday you saw a whole lot of green, right? So that's all reversed today, and going down around 0.5% or so as well is the state of the market thus far. It seems perhaps some profit taking and then coming to the fore. A sense of negativity perhaps as well around the globe as well, with the sense of negativity, as I just take a look at these numbers, also coming through around the world as well. So it doesn't look like it's just a local factor, and that is despite the fact that Asia seemed to have been in some green territory. But let's remember that President's Day out in the United States did mean that that market didn't trade, and perhaps that not filtering through into the local markets, or perhaps some of that red is where that comes from as well. So let's unpack exactly what the numbers look like in Europe for now, and we'll get into the analysis right after this. As you could tell, there's some negativity with regards to the currency, around 14 Rand against the US dollar. So that seems to have filtered through. Perhaps that Eskom issue continues to hit the Rand as more debt is then piled on or just rearranged for Eskom's purposes as well. SAA also one of those to struggle. We're on tenterhooks as we await that budget speech, which is set for tomorrow with Finance Minister Tito Mboweni. But let's talk about these markets now. Martin Harris from IG. Thank you so much for joining us there, Martin. A bit of negativity, but I wanted to touch on the Rand primarily. 14 Rand 17. Markets will generally, take a hit from things happening, especially in the SOE space, especially at present, right?
Definitely. Thank you for having me, Arabile. We've got, our budget speech coming up, and SOEs are going to be the primary focus from the investor community. So, the main focus of the SOEs will still be Eskom and then SAA. Those are the two largest sort of concerns for the for foreign investment as well as local investors.
That market as well not trading out in the United States, do you think that has had some impact in the market going down thus far today?
Not too much. I think what we have seen, though, is that the US dollar has been broadly bid against global currencies, particularly against the Japanese yen. Reserve Bank Governor of the Central Bank of Japan came out and may have made the mistake of mentioning what factors might lead to the Bank of Japan using quantitative easing again, and the market saw it as that Japan are now looking to enter another stage of QE. So the Japanese yen's come off, dollars risen against that, and so I think a bit of caution before the budget speech, but also strengthen the US dollar against the Rand.
What would you be looking for in that budget speech? What are the main elements that you will perhaps say to yourself, we'd like some clear direction in this regard, or perhaps a clearer path or more money in this direction, or where you're going to get the money from too?
Look, I mean, there's so many factors. I think one is that the market would like there to not be any surprises. Certainly, how they're going to address the debt situation. So, the government's on a tricky situation where they now either need to go for a growth strategy or they need to go into austerity. They need to have extremes of one or the other to kind of lift us out of the situation that we're in. So we'll be looking to see what their exit plan is. How are they going to get out of the problem that we're in? And whilst at the same time, they have to appease many different stakeholders across the board.
Yeah. it's going to be a tough one, and Ditumbo certainly does have his work cut out. But let's turn our attention to the equity front, and a lot has happened of late. Last week we saw some of the gold companies come out, and that didn't look too pretty. Just looking at some of them across here, the only sort of mining companies you'll find here, just Anglo American, which seems to be doing well. It was a good set of earnings out of the platinum sector of that company as well. But we just saw Kumba Iron Ore as well come out this morning. A very good set of results there. That all comes, I guess, from narrowing and making sure you zone in on what you do best. That's right. I think Kumba have done very well at reducing their costs. They said that they were going to reduce their costs by 800 million rand. They managed to reduce it by 1 billion. So they've done a lot better than what they were expecting. Iron ore prices have also helped Kumba. They've, there's going to be a lot of stimulus pumped into China over the next few months, and so I think that's been positive for the share price as well. So all in all, positive for Kumba. Their dividend is slightly lower than I think what the market would have liked to see. Compared to, they had a very strong interim dividend, and so the final dividend was a little bit lower than I think people were expecting. So I think that was the only negative. Otherwise, generally positive financial results. Yeah, bodes well for the entire Anglo stable, though, right? As we await those results, because Anglo Plat seem to have done well. Kumba Iron Ore pushing on as well as possible. Mark Kutafani can't really complain, can he? I can't really complain. I mean, even if you look at Anglo Gold, now they've come out with a similar type of setup where they've cut their costs tremendously across the group. So South African gold mining is typically a very expensive operation. We've got high costs of energy as well as labor compared to other countries that engage in mining. So they also managed to cut their all-in cost of producing an ounce of gold down to about $936. Sure. So whilst in 2017 through to 2018 they were receiving about the same sort of price on average for gold, they managed to cut their costs by about $100 an ounce. Going now into 2019, gold price is $13.26 going up. So it could be quite positive for the gold miners ahead. Yeah, and we say that it is from a low base, considering how bad things have been in that mining sector. But Anglo Gold Ashanti is probably the one that's shone the most out of all of them, especially in the last 2 weeks that we've taken a look at. Definitely. I mean, I think in the last 6 months the share price is up about 90%. So it's been a really good run, and I think that's also part of the broader commodity-based boom that we're seeing. So we're seeing the likes of the platinum producers really benefiting from a very high palladium price. That palladium price is near record highs. It's about $1,500 an ounce, whereas platinum has been quite stagnant, still at about $800 an ounce. But that palladium price primarily driven by demand in electric vehicles. So the likes of Elon Musk and his Teslas buying up a lot of palladium to put into their machines. Yeah, and that price certainly, nonetheless, also looking forward there, $806.90 a barrel odd, has traded there or thereabouts for quite some time. And I want to touch on that platinum price because we go to Implats now, and that set of earnings is one to look out for. The PGM space has been doing phenomenal. As I said, Anglo Platinum doing well yesterday, Implats as well, perhaps moving in a similar direction. Definitely. So I think Implats today actually put out a revision. So they had an update statement earlier in the month. Now they've got a revision that they are going to forecast higher headline earnings than expected. Sure. Really, Implats now near record highs, multi-year highs, sorry. They're at about 52 Rand a share. I remember a couple of months ago, they were down at 16 Rand a share. So that's really rallied hard. Again, as we said, part of the broader cycle boom and the demand for palladium really driving the companies. I think because they were under such strenuous conditions for so long, they became very lean, and so they're set to benefit from the spike in commodity prices. That seems to have been the case for quite a few mining companies, though, to try and make themselves as lean as possible, sell off assets that aren't working for them, make sure that they've streamlined and now sort of go ahead and a lot of them seem to be reaping those benefits. Sure, absolutely. In the short term, they have been doing well. But I mean, they've had there've been several years of downturns in the mining sector. It's been a really difficult space to play in. Returns have been dismal for the last few years. And only now we're starting to see the fruits of the difficulty that the mining sector has gone through. All right. So any fear then? I mean, we're still sitting in earnings season locally. There's still quite a few to still come out. Even the likes of Shoprite are yet to come out with their set of earnings as well. Any fears on your front of elements that may shake the equity market, particularly at present? Yeah, I certainly think that the equity market is now starting to be priced in.
poor consumer confidence in South Africa, really poor conditions for the traders. So anyone in the retail space trying to sell consumer goods, they are set to have had a bad 2018, and I think that's going to be showing up in a lot of the results. Their share, the share prices of the retailers really taking a knock. We're seeing it translated through to the banking stocks as well. So I think they're going to have a difficult time. However, on the other side, we now have the cyclical commodity business. They're going up. So the likes of your gold producers and platinum producers, and especially guys with a diversified platinum group metal base, are set to do quite well.
Yeah, well, appreciate your time. Martin Harris there from IG Markets as well, helping me unpack that market picture. BHP Billiton also releasing some of its interim earnings on that front as well. Revenue for the interim period going up to $20.742 billion US. Profit from operations as well rising to $7.3 billion from around $7.1 billion. That's US dollars as well. So an interesting market picture seems to be that the mining sector is beginning to edge up. Yes, fine, from a low base, but all of them have begun to streamline their operations, make sure that they move in a way that helps the company benefit in the long run. So we'll continue to unpack exactly how things are going on that front. Around 0.2% lower, however, for the JSE All Share. The rand as well stifled and weakened based on the Eskom and SAA saga. We'll continue to see how things fare, and of course that budget day tomorrow, that will be of keen interest. For now, that's where the buck stops.